Hi, this is Father Bill W. here in Austin, Texas, and welcome to the podcast. This is a series we're doing on two-way prayer, and I hope you have already visited our website. You can find it, just Google two-way prayer, and it's got information on how to do the practice, take some people through it, and lots of information that you can download so that you can begin doing this practice. If it's something that's helpful for you, we'd really love to hear from you. You can contact me at twowayprayer@gmail.com. We'd really love to hear from you and know how two-way prayer is working in your life. And if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to respond to those. So in this series, we're going a little bit deeper into the practice. Got some interviews with some folks. And the one that we're doing right now on this particular episode is about scripting. And it may not sound germane to two-way prayer, and yet it's really important. See, the practice is, I think it's, if you really kind of boil it down, it's doing steps 10, 11, and 12 and doing them really, really seriously. And in step 10, we're looking inside. We're trying to see what is it that's happening in my inner life that may be causing a disturbance in my prayer life, in my emotional life, in my social life. There's something blocking me. That certainly is my case. So I watch what it is that's going on inside, as well as what's going on outside. And that's really step 10, watching ourselves. And as one of the old timers said, if you don't watch, you don't know what the hell to pray for. And I found that kind of an eye opener, but so true. If I don't watch my life, then I don't know what to bring to God in prayer, and particularly in two-way prayer. So I watch in 10, I pray in 11, and then in step 12, I act. I receive the guidance. I meet the parts of me that need healing, bring them to God, and through that practice, hopefully we change. I know I've changed. I've been doing this thing for about 25 years, and it's made just a world of difference in my spiritual life as well as my emotional and work life. So hope you'll check in and let us hear from you. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll welcome our guest. Hi, welcome to another episode of Two-Way Prayer. My name is Father Bill W. I am an Episcopal priest in long-term recovery here in Austin, Texas. I would invite you, if you haven't done so already, to visit our website, www.twowayprayer.org, and get a sense of what this whole practice is about. It's the way they used to do prayer and meditation in the early days of AA, and certainly it was deeply steeped in the Oxford group practices from which AA came. So I think you'll find it really, really interesting. It changed my life and has been hopefully changing the lives of many of you all out there if you are getting into the practice. So we're taking a new leap here and moving into interviews. I've kind of avoided this, and you must be sick of hearing me solo for all these times if you've been with us for a while. So I'm excited about that. And hopefully we're going to have a number of interviews to talk with people who have been doing the practice, to hear from them how it has changed their lives. And you know, I always find it really helpful to listen to other people's two-way prayer sessions. And somehow when I'm listening to them, listen to God, that also speaks to me. So I'm here today with my good friend Tom B. here in Austin, Texas. And Tom and I go back maybe about 10, 12 years or so in our relationship. And early in that relationship, Tom began doing the two-way prayer. And so I've asked him to join us today, and we want to gain from his experiences. So Tom, it's good to be with you.
Nice to be here, Bill.
Yeah. And what I'd like to do, maybe just before we get started with sharing some of your writings, a little bit of your story. You're in recovery and recovering from a number of different angles and different programs. And it's one of the things I really have liked about you, that you're not just doing the straight, I don't drink and therefore I'm fine. You're going deeper into yourself. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got here.
Well, thanks, Bill. I just celebrated 34 years in AA, and I'm very grateful for the 12-step recovery. It's changed my life. And what I discovered after growing up in an alcoholic home and going through all the trials and tribulations that a lot of us go through, becoming an addict and causing all the damage I caused and hurting all the people I hurt. I grew up in a very small town in Oregon and really was isolated my whole life, and then carried that through to my drinking. And once I got into recovery, I remember I was at one of these, I don't know, it's about 10 years sober, and I was at one of these 1-week intensive discover more about yourself retreats. And the clinical director came to me and she said, I've got good news and bad news. She said, the good news is you're not addicted to gambling, but the bad news is you seem to be addicted to almost everything else. And so I luckily had a good sponsor in AA that sent me to a lot of other resources. And through the years, I've tried lots and lots of modalities of recovery. I've even spoken about that a couple of times. I think maybe 20, 25 or so. And the one that really sustains me after AA is Al-Anon, and I do that seriously as well. But really, my core of my spiritual practice has become two-way prayer after, as you know, a lot of searching and exploring. And it's almost been like a way for me to self-sponsor in a way. And it's really added a lot of depth and meaning to my life. I still have a sponsor. I still work the growth steps, as you call them, 10, 11, and 12. And I sponsor people, and I try to stay active in service. So that's a little bit about me, and really glad to be here and talk about two-way prayer. It's really changed my life.
Nice. And you're a serious guy. And if you're going to do something, you my experience with you, Tom, is you do it. You give 100%. You dive in all the way. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. That's what I was taught. And so, tell us a little bit about how you got started. Did you find any resistance? One common thing that people seem to experience with this is conceptually, it sounds strange. I know it did to me when I was first discovering it. This is weird. Any of that go on with you?
Oh, sure. And before I forget, I used to have this T-shirt that was a quote by W.C. Fields when I was still drinking. That the quote on it was, "Anything worth doing is worth doing to excess." So I still tend to live that in recovery. I once had a session when I was in early recovery with a therapist, and I told him, I said, I think there's something dramatically wrong with me. And he said, well, why do you say that? And I said, well, when I do something that really is good for me, that grows me spiritually or helps me to live a more productive life, I feel bad. And I have noticed that about a lot of these behaviors. And you can go back and be as Freudian or Jungian as you want, but it's just something I've had to deal with. And so I've had tremendous resistance to the meditation and prayer aspect of recovery my whole life.
Yeah.
And I remember I was up at Mayo Clinic in the early 2000s with chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. I couldn't get out of bed, and the doctor, who's this PhD, MD from India, said, there's nothing physically wrong with you, but you're going to have to learn to meditate, or you'll be dead in 5 years.
Mm.
And I, kind of in typical alcoholic way, I said, well, might I live longer if I don't meditate? I just couldn't see the upside to it. So I've struggled my whole life with that. And I think actually the first time I really seriously had a breakthrough was when I was with you on a trip about a dozen years ago, where we went to Palestine for that with St. George's College, where we were walking the ministries of Jesus. And you challenged me to get up every morning at some ridiculously early hour and do this 12-minute Eucharist service with one of the Franciscan priests. And I did that every day for a week. And it was a very simple, repetitive liturgy. And what I found was this daily repetition of this spiritual practice started to change me. And I felt it in a week, and it was life altering for me. And so I came back saying, well, I don't think it's a commitment to the Episcopal Church at that time. That didn't really work for me. But I started exploring different ways of doing some kind of a daily spiritual practice that would feed me, because I had that sense that something could change me, that all those years in AA and Al-Anon and all those books full of step work that I did couldn't do. So I started two-way prayer with you, and it has really been something special. I mean, some of the insights I get, I just, almost take my breath away. So It's been great.
Yeah. I share the difficulty of being successful with prayer and meditation. I was in the program for 20 years and just had never really developed a practice that I could be successful with. And when I discovered the two-way prayer, because I think what many of the practices today, they're more Buddhist in orientation, and it's to go towards silence and still your mind. And success is like hearing nothing. And I'm ADD, and it's like something's always going on. And with the two-way prayer practice, I was given permission to allow activities in my mind. But the difference was begin to record them. And so that freedom to allow spontaneous thoughts to arise without having to put them out of my mind was very freeing for me. And you talked about the practice. I did want to comment on the need for consistency with two-way prayer. Some people will sit down, do a two-way prayer session, and it can go on for like an hour. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is like overload. But then they don't come back to it for a week or 2 weeks. And they think that they can turn it off and turn it on. No, there's a consistency of doing the practice every day, of coming to, even if you're doing centering prayer, going to your pillow, sitting, there's a similarity to that. If I would just do it for 10 minutes daily, I'm going to get much more benefit from this thing than I would in a marathon session. So one of the great beauties of doing this with other people is allowing them to hear some of the writings, what God sounds like to you in your mind. So I see you've got your journal with you. If you could maybe open those up and pick 2 or 3, and we'll listen to those, and it might be real helpful to some of the folks who are out there listening. What we generally do is we bring a question to our two-way prayer. And to me, this is step 10, kind of looking at myself, seeing what's going on inside of me, and where there's a disturbance, where I really need guidance. I bring that question to God. So that's step 10. 11 is listening, and then 12 is acting, taking the guidance that I hear and putting it to work in my life. So have you been able to find something there?
Yeah, this is one I've been a high tech guy all of my life, and 3 or 4 years ago I decided to try my hand at art. It's another way along the two-way prayer that I seem to feel connected with my higher power, and I was having some trouble feeling that connection, and so this is what I wrote. Wonderful meditation this morning. Lord God, why am I disconnected with my passion? Beloved, you are resting. Your body is filled with toxins from the past, even in recovery. It is time to make peace with me. Know me, love me, trust me. Do not force your life. Let it flow through you each day. Do not question why on everything. Do not question each moment of the past. Just be open to what is on your plate at each meal. You are doing the work. You are blessed, and you follow your heart. So that was a short one, and it helped me a lot.
Yeah, disconnection. I want to talk about that for a second, because I think that's a universal problem that we have. Those of us who have egos, something goes on in there wherein the ego takes on more than it should, or in some cases, less than it should. And in those cases, when that happens, and it happens a lot, I get a sense of real disconnection. I'm disconnected from God. I'm disconnected from my source. So that's an issue that I've been doing this 26 years. Very frequently, I will go back to it and raise that up, and then I hear the voice. And when I'm hearing the voice, that connection is reestablished. So it's like there's a line that goes from my God concept down into my soul, and when that is alive, I feel alive. But when I withdraw from that, then I begin to feel it in my life. And I think alcoholics are sensitive people. Someone referred to us as misplaced mystics. I like that phrase. It's like we have to do this work, or we're going to feel that level of disconnection.
Well, and I agree with that. And the other thing is I'm an engineer by training, and one of the lines here in my meditation that came, and that's a really interesting thing I'd just like to bring up in my own work, is that one of the things you said to me very early on in my work, I said, Bill, is this God? Is this my subconscious? Is this my alter ego? And you said, it really doesn't matter, Tom, as long as it's good guidance. And for instance, this guidance, do not force your life. It's most of my career has been successful because I forced things, keep things on schedule, engineering, and so forth. And my art is very different. When I force my art, it looks awful. And when I sometimes wait and sometimes let the spirit flow through me, it's effortless, and oftentimes the art is truly beautiful. And I have noticed that patience and repetition and awareness are real gifts for me with this work. And I have to keep reminding myself not to force things.
Right. Yeah. I did want to comment just briefly on the repetition, because I read something from Edward Edinger this week that really, really touched on that. See, to me, two-way prayer is a kind of active imagination. It's putting our imagination to work in God's service. It's allowing God to speak through me in a way that requires my ego to participate in it, but not control it. I never know what's going to come up in a two-way prayer session. If I do, it's spoiled. That's what you're talking about with the art. You can kill this thing. So I don't know what's going to happen. But if I will allow myself to meet what I think is the deepest part of myself, is this God or is it me? Again, my answer was doesn't matter. If it's me, it's the best part of me I've ever found. It's the part of me that loves me, where there's another part of me that doesn't love me. There's another part of me that judges me very harshly, And I know those voices have had free reign in my life, Why am I resistant to getting this voice that is different in its quality? It's absolute love, and that's the standard that we need to bring to our writings. If something comes up and it is not absolutely honest, pure, unselfish, or loving, it can't be from God. So that's what Dr. Bob said. If it's not, throw it out. You can't go too far wrong with this if those are the standards you're using. So have you got another writing?
I do. This is a very different one, and it kind of feeds in with what you're talking about. Is that I think after a while of doing this work, I became very in touch with this little child, probably 6 or 7 years old, which was when my mom was really active in her drinking. And there was a lot of bad stuff that happened in my family when I was that age, and I felt abandoned a lot, and a lot of violence and stuff. And so I started out one day just like any other day, and that little inner child took over, and this was what happened. Lord God, my writing feels stale and superficial. Where is little Tommy? Tommy, where are you? I'm angry and done. You never listen to me. I'm right here and you never see me. Why do you push me away? Why are you busy all the time? Why do you care so much about money? What about me? I feel so alone. I feel so hopeless. What do I have to do to get your attention? I can mess you up, I can make you really sick. You better listen. And then I kind of, after a moment of shock, I kind of came back and I said, Tommy, I love you. I want to hear what you feel every day. I didn't know you were lonely and angry. Let's talk and play more. I love you so much. Let me hold you close. Doesn't that feel better, little Tommy? And then he went, well, I guess so. So that was that.
There are many voices inside of us. God's is one. The inner child is a really, really important one. And we've got a interview coming up with Mike Falls, who's done a lot of inner child work. Really helped me open that door. But and sometimes I'll go to my two-way prayer journal and I'm listening to Jesus, for example, and Jesus will say, "Listen to the kid."
Really?
Yeah, go listen to the kid. It's not more nice, holy words from Jesus that I need at that moment. What I genuinely need is the kid And you talked about it in there that he felt abandoned, and this is an important dynamic that I think goes on in the process. Once people start doing the two-way prayer, after you've done it for a while, I encourage people, and it might be 3 months, might be 6 months, might be 2 years or so. You have to come to the point where you're feeling comfortable, safe. And that's really important, that there is a voice inside of you, we call it God, that is going to protect you, take care of you. You trust it, all right? Once you get to that point, then I strongly encourage people to do what you did there, to go inside and to meet the kid, to meet the part of me that I abandoned. And what that kid wants, who that kid wants, this is better, who that kid wants is me. I was doing therapy many years ago. I did a family, used to do family week sessions. And I'll never forget this. There was a minister who was there, and his family had come, and his son was talking to him. So we pulled the son and the father out into the middle of the room. And the son is talking to the father, telling him what it was like growing up as an alcoholic, in an alcoholic home, all the pain that he was suffering. And the father quoted some scripture back to him. He quoted scriptures, lovely scripture, appropriate for the moment. The kid got up, picked up his chair, and broke it on the ground and said to his father, I don't want that shit. Forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
I want you. I want to hear from you. And so these disconnected parts of us, and particularly the child, who we leave behind, we push him down. We go meet the world, but we're meeting it with a mask on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's phony. And the kid will not tolerate phoniness. The kid is more honest. Our shadow parts are more honest in some ways, in many ways, than we are ourselves.
Well, one of the most beautiful things about two-way prayer, I think, is how it evolves. And I did the talking with God for, I think it was, longer than you said, 2 or 3, 4 years. And then you recommended I go into doing some inner child work. And I had my that weekend with Mike Falls, where I went for a walk with him, and he suggested some things. And I started doing that. And that was a long process. My inner child wouldn't talk to me for a long time. A year, he just said, get lost. And I kept going back, as Mike suggested I do. And then after a year or two of that, things like this last one started happening, where something inside of me, some God presence or something that I can't identify, I was starting out with a clear question, which is, my writing is stale.
Right.
And God had other plans for me in that session. And little Tommy came out and just, laid into me like breaking that chair on the floor.
Right.
And I went, oh, okay. And then I tried to address that. So I think the wonderful thing about this is it is like this spiritual sponsoring or the spiritual direction that directs your writing, where your gaps are, where your need is.
Right. That's right. And that's why 10 is so important. This is not a slot machine. I sit down, God, speak to me. No, I have to bring the whole in me. If I bring the whole and I'm honest in identifying the whole, that's when I get the good stuff.
Yeah,
really starts coming. So if it's an honest question, an honest need, boy, it just opens you up and allows you to hear. Well, that was really, really helpful, and I'd like to do some more of these episodes with you, Tom, in the days ahead. But I'm real happy that we were able to give people a taste for what the voice sounds like, for what the process is like. And once again, I'd encourage you to our listeners to go ahead and visit the two-way prayer website and learn the process. And we'd also like to hear from you in terms of what has come up for you. If you could record a little session and send it to us in some way, we'd love to play those, or give me an email at twowayprayer@gmail.com, and we can work out how to do it. But that's the beauty of this is sharing it with one another. So thanks, Tom, for being with us today.
My pleasure.
And look forward to doing this again with you real soon. And to all you guys out there, thanks for listening. God bless, and keep coming back.